You're on again.
Thank you. So I'm not going to go through everything in the brochure, but you can read it later if you want to. So we started out with just making sure you knew what our new mission, our new vision was, which I shared earlier in the service, which is to put God's love into action by educating and mentoring Liberian youth so that they live out the example of Jesus in their families and communities.
Well, that was so fast I couldn't understand.
Thank you. I tend to talk fast, so please raise your hand if I'm talking too fast again. I'll read again. Teamwork Africa puts God's love into action by educating and mentoring Liberian youth so that they will live out the example of Jesus in their families and communities. A lot of the projects that we've done in the past, like I said, because they haven't had a quality level of education and good mentorship to build character and integrity, a lot of our projects do not continue to be self-sustainable. We need young men and women who are good leaders of their community and in their families so that they can address the issues that are in their communities. And that's the only way that things are really going to change in Liberia. I can't go to Liberia into a community and say, hey, you guys don't have clean water, I think you should. If that is not the priority of those communities. And I know it's hard for us to understand why that wouldn't be, and it's not that it's not. It's just that without higher level thinking skills, comprehension, predictive thinking, the level of maintenance and forethought in maintaining a well, sometimes the community, one time there was a well there, we went there to go check on it, and the guy who had the key to the well was in Monrovia. Okay, what was the, you can't just take off with the key. And they're supposed to have a chain and lock on the well because it's only supposed to be open in the morning and in the evening, because otherwise the kids come and play on it and then they wear it out or break the parts inside. So that's why it's supposed to be locked, but it's supposed to be somebody who lives close to the well who, there's just things. Not good planning. That village didn't have very good leadership. So we're working in leadership now, not because water's not important, but because it's so important. That we need young men and women who know how to maintain and to plan ahead for their communities. So now I've already gone through some of the reasons why we've switched to focusing on education and mentorship based on the statistics in Liberia, the youth of the country, the lack of education, and the limited literacy rate. And so our 3 strategies to address those issues are child sponsorship, our Starfish Kids, quality affordable education, and youth mentorship. So I'm on this page where you will see that. So the first one is what Mike already talked about, which is our Starfish Kids. And so those kids that are over on, if you weren't here before and you missed your chance to sponsor a kid, there are more spots on that sheet. So if you go over there and you see a kiddo that you're like, this kid has captured my heart, I'd really like to send her to school this year. Her story, there might even be one little boy over there too. Our sponsorship program is probably 2/3 girls and 1/3 boy, because girls are the ones that lack the opportunity for quality education. If a family can only send one kid to school, it'll be their boy. So that's why our program focuses more heavily on girls than boys. There are plenty of boys where there's no education for anybody in the family, and so we don't leave out the boys, but we do try to give preference to the girls. So the kids that are over there on that table do not have sponsors right now. So if you'd like to sponsor a kid, or maybe you would like to sponsor a second one, you can look at those kiddos over there and then add them to that list. And then the pictures for the kids, because I think I was here last year in July, sometime last summer. So then I went to Liberia in September, and sometime during the year, I sent out pictures. Okay, some of you are not. So some of you got the pictures. Up until recently, I've been running everything with Teamwork Africa, and so some things do drop sometimes. So if I did miss sending you your picture, I'm really sorry. But we have someone who's helping me with the Starfish Kids program now. So she's put everything on a calendar. She's like, this is what we have to get done in July, and this is what we have to be done in August. And then in September, I'm going to Liberia, and I'll get all new pictures of the kids. And then in October, we'll be sending out all the new pictures for this year, which is why we need to know by the end of September which of the kids have been re-sponsored. Because if they aren't re-sponsored, then we need to work hard to find new sponsors for those kids. So, Mike, if you're in charge of the Starfish kids, I need to know by the end of September which ones, or today, if you can re-sponsor your kiddo today, that's fine too. That would be great. So we had 186 kids on scholarship last year, and like I said, I'm actually hoping to figure out how I can find sponsors for 50 more kids that are going to be at our new school. But I'm going to talk about our youth outreach first. So we have Inspire Girls, and I have a poster for each of our youth programs that are on that other table too. So the Inspire Girls program is a maximum of 30 girls in the group. We have one mentor and one assistant. And so they take a topic for the week. They meet weekly, they meet at school. We found out that trying to have an after-school program doesn't work for kids in Liberia because they're all responsible to go home and do work. They have to go home and get water, they have to go home and cook dinner, they have to do whatever they have to do, so they still have time to study before it gets dark. Because a lot of homes in Liberia don't have electricity, so once it's 7 o'clock, it's dark. And if they haven't done their schoolwork, then they won't be able to do it until the next morning. So we work with schools to get a commitment from the school that they'll give us 1 hour a week during the school day to meet with these kids. And so then the youth mentor comes in. We call them a mentor because the idea is to facilitate conversation. So they have a topic, maybe some of the teachings of Jesus, and they'll talk, and then they'll get into small groups and they'll answer the questions. What do you think this means? What does it mean to me? What do I understand about it? What questions do I have about it? And then they discuss it, and then they come back together in the large, so they get in groups of like 4 or 5, and they have these small discussions, and then they come back to the large group, and then they bring their questions and what they've learned and stuff like that. And then hopefully they're also praying together and talking about the challenges that they're having. The boys group runs exactly like that as well. They have a mentor and an assistant. And then the group that's different is the trauma counseling. And we are so grateful for our social worker, Angeline, who's Liberian, but she has a heart as big as Texas, I guess. She has such a passion for caring for girls in Liberia, and she is so knowledgeable and so, sometimes it can be hard to get involved in family business that's not yours, and you can be kind of withdrawn. Not Angeline. If one of our girls is having a problem, she will jump right in and defend and stick out for that girl. We have one young lady who is a very smart girl, just graduated from high school, found herself pregnant. She ran away. She tried to terminate the pregnancy. She tried several times and was unsuccessful. She went to a doctor who told her if she tried again, she would probably die. She called me. She said, I don't know what to do. I'm scared, I'm ashamed. I'm not a bad person, but I've done this really bad thing. And within an hour of talking to her, I was able to get her in touch with Angeline. And Angeline went to go meet her the next day to talk to her about where was her, did she have what happened? How did she get in this situation? Why was she where she was now? And what steps did we need to take to make sure she was safe? And so then a week later, so this young woman was sure that when her mom found out she was pregnant, she would kick her out. So she preemptively ran away. So Angeline went with her to go talk to her mom. Actually, Angeline went to go talk to her mom first. So that her mom was devastated. She just cried and cried and cried. This was, her only child. It was just the two of them. Her mom was disabled. And she had just such huge hopes and dreams for her daughter. And then this was a devastating situation because now what? Not only would this young woman not be able to go to college, but now they'd have another person in their house to take care of, and it was really scary for her. So we had already guaranteed that we would make sure that this young woman would be cared for by Teamwork Africa. So she was able to move back home, and so we're able to make sure that they're okay. So that's one of the things that Angeline does with our girls that find themselves in really difficult situations. And we're also working really hard, probably heard me talk in the past about our Mercy Hub. Where is my friend who was going to tell me when I was talking too fast? I'm sorry. I am sure I am talking too fast because there's so many things I want to tell you, and I don't want you to have to sit here all day. So the rate of sexual-based violence is incredibly high in Liberia. And Girls are not taught that their body is their own. They are not encouraged to have self-confidence and to speak up. And they are just, the environment produces a place where girls are just easily victimized. And our trauma counseling is to teach girls self-confidence, to teach them, to educate them on boundaries, to tell them that they can say no. I had some testimonies from some girls. I did some videos of them, and I need to get better at videoing, so the quality of the video wasn't really good enough for me to share, but I could understand what the girls were saying. And they were saying things like, I used to never look up in class, and I would never raise my hand to answer a question. But after coming to trauma counseling, I can raise my hand in class now, and I can answer questions. Another girl said, there was a boy in my school that was always bothering me, but after I went to trauma counseling, I told him to stop touching me, and he couldn't, and I didn't want to be around him anymore. These testimonies from these girls just so, I was so encouraged, and I'm really hoping that Angeline will be able to increase the number of locations that she's able to have these classes at, so that we can continue to reach girls before something bad happens. But also, Angeline told me one of the groups that she met with she said 80 to 90% of these girls have already been assaulted. And they have already been assaulted. And so she also helps with the recovery of helping them to work through the trauma that they've experienced and how to move on and how to not see themselves, as less than because of what has happened to them. One of the things that we're starting with one of the problems that young women in Liberia have is that as they get older and they have more needs and they want to look pretty, and so they want hair gel and they want perfume and body spray, they want, just like our teenage girls here, and their families don't have resources for those things. Sometimes they don't even have resources for more basic things. One of our girls was living with her grandma, and her grandma actually told her to move out and go live with her boyfriend because she didn't have enough to provide for both of them. So we were able to have that young woman come and live with one of our other staff members so that she would not be in a vulnerable position. But we decided to start teaching the girls how to sew. So one of our things up here this is called Something from Nothing. So when I was in Liberia this spring, we taught the girls how to sew little zipper pouches. So in Liberia, you drink drinking water from a little pint-sized bag, and there's no garbage service. Everyone just throws their plastic on the ground. So we told the girls to go pick up those plastic bags and wash them and cut them open. And they're like, why are we picking up dirt? That's what they call trash. So we showed them how to sew those plastic bags together and put a zipper on it to make a waterproof pouch. And then if they made one with just the plastic, we showed them how to put fabric on it. So and it's hand sewn. So it's almost no expense at all. A little piece of fabric is, maybe $1, and you could probably make, I think you can make almost 20 of the zipper pouches with $1. So I told the girls, I said, I'm gonna give you $1 for each zipper pouch you make now, and then when I take it back to the US, I'm gonna sell it, and whatever I can sell for, then I will send that money back to you. So all the girls put their names inside the pouches so that I could tell which ones had sold. And all of those zipper bags are already gone. But we do have other fabric things that our seamstress who teaches the girls how to sew. Her name is Niata. She sewed some of these other things for me. And these bags are made from fabric called country cloth. It's called country cloth in Liberia. And my friend Fatu weaves this fabric between 2 trees in her yard. Wow. And she makes this fabric, and then she has no way to market it. So I bought a bunch of the fabric, and I'm like, because she needed a new roof on her house, and we want to give a hand up, not a hand out. So rather than just give her the money for the roof, I said, I'll buy all your fabric. So I bought all the fabric, and then we brought it back here, and some of my friends sewed these drawstring bags. So these are, I don't know, the prices on the thing. What are they? They are $12. And then, these are all made from Liberian fabric that I got in Liberia. So these are just scrunchies. So if you have any Yeah, for your hair. So those are $4 each, or 3 for $10. So these are all of the profit from, or proceeds from all the sewing things are going to increase our sewing project in Liberia. So we have bought one Trendle sewing machine right now. So the girls, or 14 girls going through the hand sewing class now. And they'll finish it before, I think they'll be wrapping up in September. And then after that, we'll teach them how to sew on the machine. So when we sell all this stuff, then we can buy more machines and more fabric, and eventually we'll need to find a place to either build a little sewing shop or a place to rent, because our hope is that these girls will be able to start making extra money for themselves through the things that they sew, whether they can sell them in Liberia or whether or not I can help them by selling them here. So that's what all that stuff is. All right, where are we at now? Our scholarships are still $25 a month for the tuition. We got a great, Mark works at the radio station in Eau Claire, and they just did a fundraiser last week to raise a bunch of money to provide backpacks, school supplies, and shoes for our kids in Liberia, and backpacks for kids in our local community as well. It's one of my favorite fundraisers because it gives people the chance to help kids locally and kids globally. So all the kids are getting their school supplies, and if there's a medical need, this money also helps to provide for medical treatment, and for a handful of families that are in absolute abject poverty, we also provide for rice for their households every month, and school lunch. Several of our schools provide a school lunch. It's about like 50 cents a day, but we have kids that are on our scholarship program that can't afford that, so they're going to school all day long with no food. So when we identify that, we make sure that they get on our program so that we can make sure they get school lunch. I have a section in here that sort of explains my vision for why we started doing education. A lot of it is just because the schools that we were partnering with, their cost of tuition kept going up and the quality of their education kept going down. So in order to provide quality education that was affordable, because not all the kids at our school are scholarship students. We also provide quality education for those communities too. So we want to make sure that our tuition level is reasonable enough that families that do have a little bit of something can afford to send their kids to a good school. And this year, one of my friends that I've known for over 10 years has a beautiful school that he just really needed partnership with in order to keep it going. So we are going to be partnering with him to run that school. His school is just in an area where it's all rocky. So it's even, most of Liberia you can really grow stuff, a garden or whatever, but in that area you can grow almost nothing. The only jobs that people have in that area is to pound rock into small pieces and then sell it to construction companies. So it's really, really hard for families in that area to pay for tuition. So we are working with them in order to provide quality education, keep the tuition really low, and then we'll have some of our scholarship kids there as well. So that's scholarship program, our mentorship program, and education. And I know I talked fast, so anything I need to say again, or any questions that you have about what I've shared already?
Thank you so much for the good work you're doing. Yeah. Thank you for bringing us the opportunity to help.
Thank you so much. Mark and I joke sometimes about driving 2 hours from Oak Cliff to come here, but honestly, there's a church in Rockford too that I visit every spring, and I am from a small town, rural Wisconsin, and I just find that small communities have the biggest hearts. And so it is a blessing, huge blessing to me to be here and to be encouraged by you.
You might have mentioned, but I was wondering, like, when you pick these children, are you picking like one child from each family? Is that the method, or do you try to sometimes get the whole family?
Yeah, it's really tough. We have a staff of 9. This is most of our staff that's on the back. And so the staff goes out into, like right now, when we're trying to identify these 50 kids that we want to give scholarships to at our new school, they're canvassing the community. So they're promoting the school. They're like, hey, Teamwork Africa is sponsoring Hope for Life this year, and this is our school information, and this is what the tuition is. And so they're keeping their eyes open for families that are really, really struggling. So our first goal is trying to just help one kid in a family because we want to try to help as many families as possible. But there are definitely times where the staff will come and say, these kids all need help. So there was a case a couple of years ago where there's this grandma, and one of our board members in Liberia is a pastor of a church, and there was a grandma in the church, and her daughter had passed away and left 3 kids with her, and the baby had died already. And the grandma came to him and just was like, if you don't help me with these kids, they're all gonna die. And so we started giving her rice, and then we put both of her remaining grandkids on our scholarship program. So they get rice every month, they get school lunch, and because there's no hope for the one that's, you know, if we only send one to school, the other one's not gonna have any opportunities, so.
And then the girls that are educated and they have these books, do they tend to go home and try to teach the kids at home?
That's a great question. I don't think so, because I don't think they have time.
Oh.
So Liberia's on the equator, so they don't have like long days and short days like we do here. The sun's up every day by 6:30 and it goes down every day by 6:37. And so if school gets out, if it's a good school, it won't get out until like 3 o'clock in the afternoon. So you only have a few hours to do all your chores and do all your homework. So Saturday is the only time that kids have a little bit more free time. And a lot of times on Saturday, the family will send their kids to the market to go sell stuff to make extra money for the family. So there's not a lot of chances for that.
So how many kids are in school now?
Wait, like,
I mean, when you started, you had 1, and you got a couple hundred now, right? At least.
So-
What does it look like with the new school?
I mean, how many students will we have?
Students, yeah.
Okay, yeah, so our school last year had almost 200 students in it. And then, so what we did, we started with nursery to 6th grade, and then last year we added 5th grade. Last year we had 6th grade, this year we had 7th grade, something like that. We'll stop at 9th grade at the school, at our first school, because we don't have space for senior high. And then at our new school that we're starting, Hope for Life, they're also starting from nursery to 9th grade, and then we'll go up from there. I don't know what the enrollment at our new school will be. And still, even with the 186 kids that we currently have, they do not all go to our schools. They don't live close enough to those communities to attend our schools. So we still have, the very first school that we built is called Great King Academy. So if you're several of the kids here I know are attending that school, and that's still a really good school, but Teamwork Africa doesn't run it. So even though it's a really good school, they keep raising their tuition too. One good thing for us at that school is because we have a bunch of kids there, we can negotiate tuition. And I'm like, I know what you're charging for tuition, but this is what I'm gonna pay for tuition. And they usually agree with us, so that helps us with our tuition at that school too. Not sure if that answered your question.
No, you did.
Okay.
And now it's funny, it all comes down to being a salesman. You think you got a gift to do this, that, and the other. You gotta get in front of a mic and sell it. We're all salesmen at some point, you know?
That was not what I thought my calling in life was going to be at
Yeah.
all.
Yeah, I mean, Jesus sold us some stuff too, so.
That's a good point.
And we just have to keep reselling.
If you have, so with the reason why I talked about the zipper pouches is because if you're interested in helping me find ways to find buyers for those zipper pouches, when I get back, I would love to send some of them here or bring some out here if you have a way to find somebody who might be interested in buying them. I usually try to ask $5 for each of them. So the girls get $1 ahead of time, and then I send the $4 later. So let me know if you're interested in
And
it.
you talked about a good place to do that at, and that's like craft fairs and things like that. Is that?
That's an idea. I have one daughter who works in Madison at a hospital, and she took a basket of them and put them in the break room with just a little sign and a basket.
Yeah.
And one of my other daughters works at a hair salon, and she's doing the same thing. So that's with the scrunchies, but I think you could do the same thing with because it's, you know, with all the legalities and sales tax and stuff, it always just says recommended donation, so that you don't have to worry about that part of it.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
what amount would
Okay, sure.
you suggest, thinking that we can buy, if we said we, I mean, we
Yeah, so I'm hoping to get a total of $5 for each of the zipper. Oh,
Quantity, I mean, how fast can your girls work? No.
they are already sewing now.
So are you talking like 50 or 100 or?
We just started this project when I was there, and so this is the first time. I'll see how many they made. So I'm not sure. I'm sure they'll be well over 100, because even when I was there, I had a couple girls that made like 15 each. So I think I probably got back at least 50 with me last time, and that was after only a week of them sewing. Because there was about, I think there was about 8 or 10 girls that were sewing, and so they each made at least 5 to 15.
And I have 2 of those bags, I bought them when
You
we were in
did?
Liberia, and they are very nice with the plastic lining and things, so I mean, it is
Which are the zippers?
nice.
Which ones are they?
They are not here because I sold out.
Sounds like you could sell some of those.
Okay, well, then I'll make sure they get here, and then I'll have a little sign so that you can,
Okay, cool.
yeah, that would be awesome. I do need a responsible person to make sure you calculate, like with the scrunchies, if you sell those, it just goes to Teamwork Africa to support the sewing program. But the zipper pouches, you have to keep track of what girl made them.
Yeah.
So, and I'll put a package together. I'll say like, hey, this is how many this girl sold. So if you just sell all of them, then I'll know how many you did.
The only challenge would be finding a responsible person.
Well, I will leave that with you. I'm glad that you have one. Do you be able to show?
Yeah, I'll bring it next time.
Great. Yeah, it's like a pencil case size.
Oh, okay.
So, isn't Peggy great? Yeah. But I gotta just tell you, because she hasn't mentioned this, and you guys are the culmination of what's been a very busy week. So, some of you, Jim and Shayla, no, they need to know.
Okay, fine.
Jim and Shayla were at the 14-year Teamwork Africa celebration we had in Eau Claire, and so we appreciated that. And so somebody else who was there, one of our local Teamwork Africa fans, supporters, a guy by the name of Dave Wood, he came away from that night and he wrote to his favorite podcast. It's a podcast done out of Memphis called An Army of Normal Folks. And they build themselves as not just as a podcast, but as a community. And he's like, oh, that's his favorite podcast. The idea that the people who are going to change the world aren't, is just regular folks. And so he told the Teamwork Africa story about Peggy and wrote them. And right away they were like, oh yeah, we'd like to have her on. And then they kind of said, you know what, we can't do it right away. But then they said, we'll fly you to Memphis on Monday, August 4th. And so this past Monday, she flew out of Eau Claire, 5:30. I dropped her off. I left I did morning radio.
AM.
Yeah, 4:30 in the morning, right? So I'm dropping her off at the airport. She flies to Chicago. She gets to Memphis. She's there and she records. And it's going to be, the podcast drops on Tuesday. Now, I don't really know. It's funny because behind the scenes at that same Teamwork Africa event, we had somebody who said, I'll help you with your website. So God just kind of provides. We found that out all along the way. Like, how have we kept this going financially? Because she's hated fundraising even before we started Teamwork Africa, right? When Habakkuk died in June 30th, 2009, and she said, that can't be the end of the story. Let's put in a well. That was the most expensive well we ever did. That was $7,000. The rest of the wells we did were more like $3,000. So anyhow, really excited and not knowing, like, wow, how many people listen to this podcast? The guy who does this podcast is a football coach, and he's got a lumber company, and his name is Bill Courtney. And Bill Courtney was the subject of a Academy Award-winning documentary in 2011 called Undefeated. And it was about how he took a high school football team from the Memphis area that had been losing for 100 years, and he turned around to be 9-1. And I did a little reading. Basically, every kid in the team had a family member that was in prison, and none of them had 2 parents at home. And so he is kind of a unique individual. And Peggy, I don't know, I'm really looking forward to it. Like, he tells about Liberia, it sounds like, but a lot of it was kind of like, so what's a Midwest mom, housewife starting an international organization in one of the poorest countries in the world. So I want you to be looking for that. It's called the Army of Normal Folks Podcast, Army of Normal Folks. I just Googled it right now. It'll come up, and the podcast is going to drop. But it's just going to be a great way to kind of get the word out and for people to hear the story. So she wasn't going to tell you that, but I needed to tell you.
All right, thank you. All right.
Any other questions? I know you guys probably have a busy day ahead of you or other things you want to get to, so I don't want to keep you too long. Well, if not, if you want to look at some of our girls our kids that need sponsors are over there, and if you want to look at some of our Liberian crafts, they are on this side. And if you have questions you just want to ask me, I'm right here.
Yeah, okay.